I always tell people this about multifamily is once you're in it, there is no getting out of it if you love what you do. Yeah. It gets you and and that's what it's done for me. It's crazy and then it's fun. You get your people, you get to make a difference with training, you get to see new buildings come up from nothing to then, the whole building, and you're like, oh, this is amazing.
Growing up as the youngest of 5 sisters, Robbie Mejia learned early that life teaches through both good and bad examples. Her father, a hardworking Vietnam veteran who struggled with alcoholism, showed her the power of asking, "What do you think?" and demanding real answers, not just easy ones. Now, leading teams in multifamily while navigating the complexities of being a stepmom, Robbie believes in dropping the ego, building trust first, and remembering that behind all the technology and efficiency, this remains fundamentally a people business.
I'm very transparent if you trust in our relationship, because it is a two-way street. I can't do for you if you put yourself out on a limb all by yourself and then I find there's a problem and we never knew there was a problem, right? So the very bottom line from a leadership issue level foundation with me is trusting each other and growing on that.
How would you explain your leadership philosophy?
Property managers lose hours chasing rent, while delinquency and filing costs add up to massive losses. The financial impact? Millions in unpaid rent sold to collections agencies that recover just 20 to 30%, while taking a huge cut. Now, the Kelsey you trust for leasing helps you recover more rent in-house, reducing reliance on agencies and maximizing revenue. With Collections AI, Kelsey automates rent and move-out collections, from the first missed payment to move-out, while ensuring compliance across jurisdictions. Easily train and set up Kelsey on your company's collections process, including CARES and state-regulated workflows. She doesn't just set reminders. Kelsey answers resident questions, tracks promise to pay dates, and follows up persistently to keep payments on track. Need oversight? Corporate teams can monitor collections in real time with Zuma's dashboard, while site teams use the Chrome Assistant to track payments and even respond as Kelsey when needed. Kelsey also evaluates resident risk with AI, providing instant insights to help you make smarter renewal decisions. The impact? Doubles collections velocity, reduces filings, cuts site team workload by 85%. Stop leaving rent revenue on the table. Let Zuma's Collections AI handle the heavy lifting while you focus on what matters. Get started today.
Robbie, welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for welcoming us into this model unit.
So, yes. It's a fabulous unit at the Josephine.
Yeah, at the Josephine for anybody listening in San Antonio.
Downtown San Antonio.
Downtown San Antonio.
Yeah, it's a good place, a great team, and so I'm just happy you guys could make it here.
Yeah, well, I'd love to start with a little bit about your background and maybe just understand where you grew up, and we'll go from there.
So I grew up in Austin, Texas. So I'm a Texas girl, love it. Was very proud Texan all around. My parents were both from Texas, and my dad ended up stationed in Austin. They used to have a Air Force base in Austin that is now the airport. But so there were just young families based there, and my family loved it there, and so we ended up just staying there. He retired, and we just stayed in Austin. I grew up there. So family with 4 older sisters. I'm the youngest.
All girls?
Yes, all girls. So my poor dad had a difficult time with all of us.
So he had 6 girls in the house.
6 girls. I remember one time him also saying, even the dog is a girl. Like, he's like, I can't catch a break. But yes, so with all of us in the house. So 4 older sisters, and it was a fun time.
Yeah.
Small house. So we were always kind of on top of each other, but loved it. It was a good time.
Tell me about, so before we started recording, we were talking about how Austin has become, it's lost its authentic I don't want to steal the words out of your mouth.
Yeah. No, okay. So I don't want people mad at me. But in all, truthfulness, growing up in Austin, it was really just a cool place to be, cool place to hang out, real genuine. It was a authentic hipness and, things around you that were happening, a lot of hiking, the green belts, the places you would go. And, you could go out for a day on the green belt, and people in Austin know where I'm talking about. And maybe run into one or two other people, out. And now it's grown so much. It's great for business, great for, Austin, all of those kind of things, great for what we do in multifamily. But it has changed as a city, and so many new people there that the feel of the town has changed. And some of it feels a little, not so authentic and genuine as it was growing up. There's a little more trying to have that feel instead of authentically being so. So the city's changed a lot. There's still a lot of great things about it, a lot of great food, a lot of great places to go. The restaurants there, there's, I think, for the area, for the size of the town, it has one of the most amount of restaurants in the nation for the size of it. But yes, so love it, but it has changed greatly. So with that change, I have moved further out of Austin. When I met my husband, he lives outside of Austin. And so now that's where I live, a little outside of Austin. And as it's been growing, he's like, I think we need to move further out because people are coming our way. And I'm like, I'm not moving any further away. But that's where we
awesome.
are.
Yeah. There's this book called The Whole Story, which is about the founding of like Whole Foods.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
John Mackey. And I read the book, and it was really interesting to see how he described Austin. I don't remember I think it was like the 80s or something like that. And how different it was.
Yes.
Right. So I can kind of understand based on what I read about that book and how it was.
Yeah. Well, and here's a thought, because, and I'm going to give away my age and stuff, which I'm fine. I've probably already given it away by just looking at me. But so in the 80s, yes, running around town, all of that stuff. I remember in high school, we would go to the state capitol, and you could run around on the grounds there at night and, play hide and go seek or whatever. And nobody was stopping you. Nobody cared. They would tell you to leave, but they didn't care. You wouldn't get in trouble over it. And now it's all closed off. You can't, get in there. People, it's just a different way of life. Yeah.
So our mutual friend, Carrie.
Yes.
When I was chatting with her, she mentioned I should ask you about I don't know if you remember, but she mentioned a lunch and learn that you guys did one day about your father and how inspirational it was.
Yeah. No, my dad was a great guy. I learned a lot of lessons from him, and I did a lunch and learn when we worked together, and it was maybe a couple months after he passed away. And I took some of the lessons when I had given a kind of a talk to my family after he passed. And, we kind of went over the great things about Dad and the things he used to say and that kind of stuff. And so for the lunch and learn, I put together some lessons from my dad. And there was, for me, it's a lot of things of how I look at my life now, what I've done in business, how, you treat people. And my sisters and I still say those certain things he would say to each other. If you're having a bad day, my dad used to just say, just maintain. Like, you don't have to lose it. You don't have to go above and beyond, but just maintain. Don't give up ground. Don't get lost in it. Just keep your head up for a little while and just keep going. And so some of this little bits of that and lessons I took from my dad. What's interesting about that is the things I didn't share about my dad in that lunch and learn. And, the thing that was also lessons from my dad is my dad was an alcoholic. And so there's this contradiction of these great things about my dad, and then this other side of him that also, I think you could see that prevented him from being so much more in his life. And then how that affected us and our family. And and relationships from that. So there's a lot of lessons people teach you, the good ones and the not so good ones that you take with you. But, there was the other things, from my dad. I mean, it would be, speak up, use your voice, have an opinion, say something, but don't say anything just to say it. Know what you're saying. And, we grew up as a family, and we would sit around the dinner table with my sisters, all of us sitting there. My mom would make, typical stuff, pork chop, salad, very balanced meals. My mom was really great at just balanced meals. Like we didn't get a lot of extra, desserts or cookies or like stuff. Our house is very, very balanced in that way. But we'd sit at the dinner table, and my dad would go around with just some topic from the news, something going on.
You had dinner every night?
Most every night, yeah. Yep. He'd come home from work. My mom would have stuff together. We'd lay it out. We'd sit around. But he'd go around and he'd bring up some topic and be like, what do you think about that? And, what do you think? What do you think? And so you'd go around and he didn't just say, what do you think? He would say, why do you think that? And so you couldn't just say, or she said that, so I'm saying that. No, he wanted to know, like, you have some thought into what it is you're doing and saying. And, we'd get to the end, and then we'd be like, okay, Dad, well, what's the answer here? And he'd be like, there is no answer. Like, I mean, what you're thinking is your answer for you. And so, he would break things down that way to be a little bit like, finding solutions. There isn't just this one way of doing it, right? And so, those were the things like that my dad was really great at, and he was so creative. He was the funny and the sort of, outgoing and pick you up and throw you down, that kind of stuff. My mother was very conservative and less emotional, and so there was this mix between them that, I was happy to get, because it sort of made me whole in that sense. Yeah.
What was the dynamic like between your parents?
When I was younger, it was really good because they were a team and they worked together. As we got older, it was very clear they were not a good fit for each other. Because of those things, those differences between them, and a stubbornness between both of them that, just didn't bend. And my mom didn't bend very well either. And so as soon as I graduated, and I was the youngest, they got a divorce. And I think they were just waiting for me to make it through and kind of to get to that other side. I think my mom just felt like, okay, let me just reach this other side. And, like there was a finality and her kids being done with school on that level, and she could move on. They got a divorce after 27 years of marriage. And because of my dad's drinking. So there was a lot at play in the later years that kind of had this split. But those were, again, other lessons to learn in the relationships I had later with people.
In what way?
I think I would tiptoe maybe around some stuff. Like when you deal with an alcoholic, a lot of times you don't know what you're going to get. They're in a good mood or something goes off or, so sometimes you tiptoe around other people's feelings or, what's happening. And so you just want to say, oh, everything's okay. And you lose your voice in that a little bit because you're just making sure, oh, okay, we're just trying to be normal here and everything's okay. It's hard to trust in the other person because you don't know what you're going to get back, right? Like you don't know what you're looking at today, what you're going to get back from them. And so with relationships, it took me a little bit to figure that out. And there was one point in my life, I was probably about 25-ish. And I remember talking to my dad, and my dad remarried. He married a lady that was much younger than him and was moving on, all this other stuff. But I remember saying to him, I just had to sort of forgive him for some of these things. And he was like, whoa, what do you mean? Isn't that bad? And I'm like, no, there were things that were bad. And I had to recognize it, say it, say it to him so that I could just move on, because I wasn't going to have other good, solid relationships until I did that. And I did, and I was moved on, and letting some of those things go and keeping what serves you has been the thing that has helped me most. Also having sisters that went through it with you, that are your best friends, that also help you through that. So yeah, that's my parents.
Did your dad acknowledge that he had a problem?
Later, I think it was much later, where he was just like, yeah, but it is who I am. And he, really just kind of said, it is who I am. So he didn't really go out of his way to change it, but there were times in his life where he drank less. So.
But he was functioning.
Oh, very, functional. So my dad was one of the hardest workers anyone would ever run across. So that there's that.
So that probably makes it even harder to stop, or because you're still you're a functioning member of society. You're still.
Yes.
So how did he manage to work so hard then?
I don't know. I don't know, but my dad had a really good, he knew what he was responsible for. So, again, growing up, my dad was very, I'm responsible for this family. Out of this family, I'm going to take care of this family, and what that looks like, I'll do. I didn't know this too until I was older. He was talking to me one time, and he said, I was going to work, and again, he was in the Air Force, and he said, I would go to that, and then I would go home, and he worked at a convenience store for a while at night. And I had no idea that while I was really young, that's what he was also doing. And it was interesting to me, because I was like, I didn't realize you were doing that as well. So interesting, yes.
Yeah. Do you think he suffered from depression or anything?
That's a really good point. My sisters and I have talked about this, because if you look back and, when you read different books and start to look into this stuff, and that they do say a lot of people that were heavy drinkers, they find themselves being a lot of alcoholics. Alcoholism comes from that. He was in Vietnam. My dad was went to Vietnam, served, proud patriot, my dad. He was with the Jolly Green Giants in Vietnam, which was a crew that would go into hot spots and pull out people. So, I don't know if there were things in his life that affected him in those ways, that he was also from a very masculine background, that it was, hard to say, oh, I need to talk about this, or I need to work through this. Oh, my feelings. There wasn't really that kind of outlet. And so I think drinking was a way for him to deal with that.
And his upbringing was pretty intense?
His upbringing, yes. Yeah. Very, very poor. And he had 7 brothers and sisters. And he had a father, my grandpa, Papa Adrian, who was also, a heavy drinker. And so, it was hard for my dad. And in his family, I think growing up, he also felt an obligation and a duty to help through his his brothers and sisters and my grandmother, and, trying to take care of stuff too. So I think he felt a heavy responsibility for a very long time. Yeah.
How do you think the divorce between your parents, did you think that affected you growing up?
No, by the time they got a divorce, we all thought that should have happened much sooner. Because what was interesting about my mother, when I said my mom was very conservative, she didn't show a lot of, if you were sick, she would just be like, oh, don't come next to me, you're sick. She wouldn't be like, oh, you're, for you,
and
you're sick.
Your dad was more like that?
Yes, my dad would go, oh, what can I do? All this stuff. But she was unhappy. And then I remember this time after they got a divorce, it was maybe a year or two later, where we were laughing and she was kidding around. And I thought, wow, this is who she is as a person. And growing for a while there, I never considered this fun, laughing person as my mom. And, you have to realize your parents are people, right? First and foremost. And you forget that when you're growing up with them because, they're mom and dad, right? But seeing her as a person that was happy, and I thought, they weren't doing anyone else's service by staying together for so long. So when they did get divorced, it was, yes, y'all should have gotten divorced sooner.
Did she work?
My mom did once I was in, I guess elementary school, later, maybe 6th grade. She started part-time work at the IRS, and then as I got into maybe high school, she started with the state controllers, and so she started, had her own stuff, and I think that also made her go, "Hey, I'm moving on," in a way. Yeah,
I'm really fascinated by the idea that you have 4 sisters.
Yeah. Well, 3 now. One has passed away.
Sorry about that. What was the relationship with all of you guys growing up?
It was fun. And I think 2 of them that are closest in my age were real.
What was the age? What's the age?
So my oldest sister there was a 7-year gap from her to fill in the middle. And then the second, the oldest, she's probably 5 to 6 years older than me. And then there's a middle age gap there. And then the middle sister, June, she's 2.5 years older than me. The other one's about 1.5 years older. And then me. Yeah. Between 2 of them, they're 10 months apart. So, yeah.
And do you identify with like the younger child, younger sibling like stereotype?
Oh, that's interesting. I think growing up, I for sure did. Like I fit a mold of, they kind of spoke for me. I kind of sat there. I think my parents were over being parents by the time I got there. You know what I mean?
Because I look at you and I don't really see a younger sibling, which is kind of,
As I got older, I think, once you're away from a family like that you had always been really close to, I moved out went to school in Houston, but then moved back home, and I worked for a company, Equity Residential, and I moved out to Florida on my own and just went with the company. But they had a position out there, and I'm like, I'm going to go out there, and figuring out your stuff in your life for yourself for a while is really changes things. And I guess I would go back a little further. The first time I had my own apartment. And really, when things are all yours, right? Like, oh, what's in the fridge? What's in there. Exactly that. You picked it. May only be a couple of things because you can't afford that much. But I think those kind of things where I just started finding my own way. And I don't know what really pushed it to kind of just then. And a lot of it, if you look back, yes, it was my dad saying, go do, figure stuff out, be your own person. So some of that, being that younger child, sort of goes away when you go do that on your own. I think that was really helpful. But getting back into your family, right, and that same dynamic when we're around, you sort of fall back into
old patterns.
Yes, yeah. And so, I have to tell
what are some of those old patterns?
It's the you're kind of there to be there, but really nobody's listening to you. If you're deciding on a place to go to for dinner, you just sort of kind of go along with what everybody else wants to do, and so. Yeah, there's less of a voice for you, for me, that was there. That it does change those relationships when you are older, and now you're like, oh, wait a minute, I I don't want to go eat there. You know what I mean? We're not doing that. And you don't have to play nice all the time. And so, yeah, those little things are different. And, you know, your sisters, as from their angle, they always wanted to look out for you. And so there's things where they're like, oh, well, I remember when my mom was sick, my mom had passed away about 15 years ago. But I remember this time where my sisters were saying some stuff, and I'm like, why didn't y'all tell me? And they're like, well, we didn't want to worry you. We didn't want you, and I'm like, okay, you're not helping me by doing that, right? You have to give someone a choice, give them information and, let them digest that and work through it. And so those kind of dynamics were still the same, right? Because they were looking out for me as their younger sister and thinking I couldn't handle certain things. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think about, how I feel like there's these old patterns you have when you're with your family that you just kind of change. Like it's hard to break out of that.
Yeah.
Those patterns, like who you were growing up.
Wait, did you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, so I have an older sister and a younger brother, so I'm the middle child.
Oh, okay. Do you fit that stereotype?
I think I do, yeah. Yeah, I've thought a lot about that. I think I do. I think I feel, my sister's 3 years older, my brother's 2 years younger. And I feel like growing up, it was the classic example of, the older sibling is kind of the first one and parents are new and all this stuff. And then the younger sibling, is the youngest and gets all the attention and all this stuff. And I think it was amplified when I was 5. My grandparents, my mom's parents, moved in with us.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember feeling it was very clear, and I don't blame anybody or anything like that, but it was very clear that my grandparents really favored my brother and my sister. And I remember kind of like basically feeling like, feeling like I needed to be more independent, which I think is like a middle child thing, where you want to be more independent. You don't want to rely on people. You want to be responsible for your own like decisions and behaviors. And I feel like because of that, I kind of like ostracized myself a little bit. So yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. But now, where are they? Are they all close now?
So now we're all close. Yeah, my siblings and I we were always kind of close, but I think the thing though is like there's a certain type of personality that I will have. Around your family, you're more snappy or you're more like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like you can't really just because what I feel like happens is you grow up with your family and you kind of remain a similar person, but to the external world, you're like evolving. But when you go back to your family, you're like kind of the same person.
Yes.
So it creates this like conflict in like personality. I don't know if that's making sense to you, but
no, that makes a lot of sense, and it's interesting because there's also. There's safety in being, because you still feel like I can be whoever I want here, but yet you fall back into a sort of a pattern maybe, a hole that you had been in, and you fit that. And so that's where you go, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that.
So I'm kind of interested in the idea that, you brought up, which is you can learn from good and you can learn from bad behavior. What do you feel like was more impactful to you? Because, I'm sure if everybody looked at it intellectually, honestly, and they looked at their parents, like there are things that are great, things that are not great.
Right.
And you can take learnings from both. How do you think that dynamic was for you growing up? Like, do you feel like you were more moved by the good or the bad?
That's a good question. Yeah. Honestly, I guess I would say as a younger person, I was probably more, in that time, the bad affected me. As I've grown up to learn who I am and have just really just grown, right? The good is what stays with me. Because the other stuff was, just fear or pain or hurt that you work through, right? But if you're growing, you do move past that and let it go. And so looking today, if you ask me today where I am, what has been most impactful, it was the good then, right? Because that's the stuff that stayed with me. Saying that though, that's everything makes you who you are, right? I mean, really, but you choose again to keep what serves you. And so the good is what serves me. So that was a good question. I took a little bit roundabout to get there, but yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah.
When you mentioned you have kids.
I have two stepsons. Yeah,
two stepsons.
Yeah.
How old are they?
One is 22 and one's 20.
When you think about creating influence on them, like what do you think about as like the values you want to instill?
That's a good question. My husband is fabulous.
And how did you guys meet?
Okay, we met on Match.com.
Okay.
So I was single for a long time, and I dated. I was engaged. I was sort of maybe a runaway bride for a while. What somebody would call me, because I broke off a couple of engagements or nice relationships. But I just realized they weren't. It wasn't for me.
Why do you think you were single for a while? Why do you think it took you a while to kind of commit?
Well, I did put a lot of focus on work, and was really busy with work, and I put a lot into that part of my life. I did think that if I was successful and worked really hard, that was something I needed for myself, and to take care of myself and to not have to depend on somebody else to do that. So there was a lot of that push for a while. I changed jobs because I had been recruited to other positions, or I thought, oh, I'm looking for more money, or I wanted a different title, or, that kind of stuff. And that kept me busy for a long time. Was that maybe the best thing looking back? I don't know, but it was fulfilling in my life for what I was doing and what I needed. And there was something missing in some of those relationships. And I'll tell you, I had never been one of these people that, I would meet somebody, okay, we'd go out, oh, they're nice, good, okay. I'd never been one of those people who thought about meeting somebody and going, oh my God, this is it for me. I tell you, the night I met my husband, I told my family, I'm going to marry this guy. I'm going to marry him, and he is the one for me. And my family did the same thing of like, well, wait, how, what happened? Like, whoa, this is not you. And I remember being at one of my sister's houses, and we were sitting on the back patio, and my nieces were around. One of my brother-in-laws was there, and they were like, okay, well, we really need to talk to you because we've never heard you talk like this. Who is this guy? What's going on? Whatever. And I was just like, he fit all of these pieces, and I don't even know what it is. And maybe the timing in my life and the pieces that I needed, he was just that. And I don't know how to tell people that to this day. I still just go, he's great. And I feel very, very lucky in my life, but he's a great dad. And so I was going back to my stepsons. One of the things I loved about him when I met him is he's a great dad. And he's, my stepsons are wonderful, hardworking, smart, independent. They just want to go out and do their own thing, and they're happy. And, and he has done a great job in guiding that. And he also did a great job in helping me be a stepmom. Because the thing that people don't...
That's a complicated role, right?
Yes, you hit it on that.
Tell me about that. What is that like getting into that?
That's a thing that I'm like, if I'm going to write a book after my first 5 books I have to write, I would write about the difficulties of maneuvering through or managing being a step parent. And it's a strange world because you are sort of a backseat parent, and you have to really trust the partner you're with, because if they don't parent the way that you see, right, you have conflict there. But also now, not just then that person, but a third person that you don't have a relationship with in our relationship, right? And so the boy's mom, maneuvering through those kind of things is really hard. And even in good relationships, it's hard because you have to find your role, and you have to know when to speak up, and then also when to say, okay, this is a decision really for them to make, but my role as a wife and a stepmom is to support the decisions then that my husband is making for the boys. Because of who my husband is, he was always open to, what do you think, what's happening? So I still felt as a good partner in their, bringing them up in that. So because of how he handled it, I was able to work so well through it. But you hear a lot of disaster stories around step parenting, and it's hard.
Yeah. I think the thing to me that seems extremely complicated is when to speak up, like you said.
Yeah.
Like, because at some point I feel like the reaction of the kid would be like, you're not my mom.
Yeah.
Or like, why are you telling me what to do?
Yeah.
So it's like a really challenging thing where you
Yes.
have to navigate when to speak up or even how to speak up and what the most effective way to do that is.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting with that is because you do have those moments and they're like, yeah, you're not my mom. Okay, well, you know what? I'm not, and I don't want to be. I'm just here to help you. But in that same regard, children, as they grow up, they also stay to their own parent. I don't have to listen to you. So, you have to still go, okay, they're learning, they're growing, and not take that personally in that, hearing that, but it does put you in a place of, yeah, you're not my mom. Oh, okay. But I think we maneuvered it or managed through it as best as possible.
Yeah.
And we still are, right? I mean, even though, one's in the Air Force and overseas, and the other one is, in school. And so they're still, they're not going to go away with that. And then, marriages and children and stuff for them. So that'll always be something.
You mentioned he fit like the pieces that were missing or fit complementary to you. What are those like pieces, or how is it complementary?
Yeah, he's funny, he's smart, he's manly. He's a man's man, but not a ladies' man, you know? And so I can be 100% of myself when I'm with him. I mean, and that means the good, the bad, the goofy, the silly, you get what you get. This is it. All of that, and I'm pretty much that in general. But really, with him, it's just as easy. And I think that easy is what it should be in that relationship. It shouldn't be trying to fit it. Oh, God, well, there's this or there's that. It just was easy, and he's my husband he's smart, and he's an avid reader. We both read a lot, but he's always interested in just like, oh, this story, or this is how this happened, or this is what they told me, or he was working on a case. He's a private investigator, and
wow.
So he started his own business after he retired. He retired as assistant chief of police in Austin, and then he started his own PI firm. So he has all these neat stories and neat cases. But he went to visit this place about a week ago, and he comes back and he's telling me all about the woodwork they do and what these things mean and and the layout of it. But in his mind, he's learning from just talking with these people of what they do and how they live and kind of stuff. And so for me, that's the thing that's so interesting about my husband. Before
you met him, what did you think were the traits you would be attracted to? And then after you met him, did that change at all, or was it what you thought?
I always thought the traits that I was looking for, someone who was smart.
Is that how would you like stack rank them, I guess?
In what sense? What do you
So
mean?
like the most important trait to life.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
So smart was like one of the most important things.
But, well, no, having the similar sense of humor
Yeah.
is really at the top.
Yeah.
Because when I do say smart, I was in a relationship, I won't name names, but to a very, very intelligent man. And, but we just didn't have similar sense of humor. And so I'm sure there were jokes he was telling that probably just went straight over my head. I was like, I don't know what you're saying, but I'm sure it was funny. And we couldn't laugh together like that. And if I couldn't have that, that's that, I'm out. And so there's definitely that with my husband. We laugh about a lot. Just... and not like rolling on the floor laughing, but just a similar, banter and joking. And it's even through some of our tough conversations, we're, kind of working our way through laughing through it. So that was first and foremost. And then I didn't realize after I met my husband, how important that being a great dad really resonated with me, and how he connects with his sons. So that was a different take that I don't think I had pinpointed before, because you're not going, oh, I want someone who's a great dad, But so that was up there. But no, humor, intelligence, and just the wanting to learn, right? Like being. The curiosity. Yes. Yeah. Because that would explain a lot, my husband. So, we like to travel, or we like to try new foods, or we talk, that kind of stuff. And someone who's stuck in a place where they're not willing to experiment or try or go somewhere different or feel uncomfortable, that wouldn't work for me. Nothing wrong with that, just wouldn't work for me. And so the curiosity of life, being curious about learning. So that's up there. I don't know if I'm doing a good job of putting them in order.
No, it makes sense.
And then, of course, the attraction of, just the spark and all of that, call it what you will, but it's necessary. And so, yeah. Are you in a relationship?
I'm not in a relationship.
Oh, you're
That's why I'm
not?
asking
Okay.
all these questions. I'm
Well, I
curious.
can help you out. I can be your second mom to you and tell you, yes, who's good for you, who's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's just really interesting to me. I was talking to David here. He's a dad, and the character trait of somebody being a good mother is something I actually never really thought about too.
Yeah.
I guess inversely, a good father. And it's something that like, I feel like moving forward when I look, to settle down or meet somebody, I feel like that's such an important underrated trait or underrepresented trait. I feel like I didn't think about that and how important that is.
Because it will, in some way it's going to match, how you see life, or how you think about raising your children, and all of that. So I think it's hugely important. Yeah.
So when you think about meeting your husband later on in life, and you mentioned work as a reason, is that the primary reason? Is that, because I find it interesting that you said you were engaged, and a couple things kind of almost went there, but then didn't quite cross the finish line. Like, could that be attributed to anything else?
I put a lot of thought in that. I did, because going back to the relationship with my dad and that kind of stuff. And so, I think about that, but I really do feel like I was open to, I think when I did have that kind of moment with my dad of just saying, I've got to forgive and move on and that kind of stuff, I really do feel like it changed how I interacted with him, my dad, and our relationship, and just being like, I'm cool with you. We're good, kind of thing. And maybe I was carrying some of that. I don't know. But I will say, I don't think it was any more about my dad or anything else. I think it was just really trying to feel whole as an individual for myself. And whatever it was that I was needing or wanting, or some kind of, am I good enough, or, at what level will I say, yeah, you've proved that you can do this kind of thing. I think you hit a place in your life, and hopefully all people do, to say, I am now telling myself better stories. I'm telling myself better things. I'm not, speaking so harsh to me and like, oh, why'd you do that? Oh, you didn't get that done. Oh, you need to do this. Like, I mean, I don't know what that heaviness with that voice was, but that was me, that needed to be worked on or healed or fixed or talked to. And when I came out, and looking back, it wasn't like this process that I was going, oh, I need to heal myself. It was just, I stayed busy. I did these things. But looking back, I'm like, why was I trying to prove this so much for myself? Or what is it? Maybe it was growing up with, 4 older sisters, or people who thought I couldn't do something, or growing up, with not a lot of advantages, right? Like, you had to make your own advantage. You had to do your own thing. Growing up in a environment where, my mom had to manage every dollar. My mom was great with a budget, like great. But my parents weren't people who taught us how to invest, And so when you get to a place where you're like, okay, why not me? Why can't I be doing that? Why can't I be investing and have a second home or a third home for rental or something? Why can't I do that? And getting to that place where the story in your head shifts, and you're like, I can do that, right? The difference in unlimited and limited, and that shift in itself,
like scarcity versus abundance mindset kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Did your parents have a scarce mindset?
Yes.
Both.
Yes. I would have, my dad wanted to do a lot of things, but yes, they both thought this was all you have. This is your limit. Like,
And your sisters?
I think my oldest, the one who's passed away, was had a tough time for herself. My other 3 are go-getters. Yeah. I have one sister who she sells homes, and she is amazing. Like, she could sell you anything. Like, honestly, like, okay, oh, this chair you're sitting in, it's fabulous. It's great. Look how comfortable it is. And you'd be like, okay, I need 5. She's great, but she works really hard. And I just had this discussion with one of my nephews, and he was saying about, Aunt Cynthia, and she's rich, and, kidding around in a way, but saying some stuff. And I said, well, that doesn't just happen. Like, she has worked really hard all the time, doing whatever, late nights, the weekends, blah, blah, blah. And I used to call her Supermom. And, she had 2 daughters, and then one's in this and one's in that, and she's taking them, dropping off, she's working, da, da, da. And she'd been married, and, when they first got married, her husband worked nights and she worked during the day, and then they, just kept working, and finally, got to different level. But yeah, they worked, and she's worked really hard. So, she has more of that abundance kind of way of vision. I have a middle sister who might play it safe more, I guess, maybe play it safe a little on some instances. And then my other sister, who she doesn't work. She's raised her daughter and had been a stay-at-home mom, so she worked in that sense. But from a work level, wasn't like, oh, I've got to do all these things. But her husband has, and therefore she has, because they did, built a lot of their own stuff together. But have done incredible for themselves as well. So I don't know if that's answering your question. But.
It does, yeah. How have the stories you've told yourself internally changed over time?
Yeah, much more friendly. Much more, this is who you are. Like, this is all you get. Like, I'm me, and I'm good with that.
How has it changed? Like, why? Why has it changed?
I don't even know maybe the why, or just that, you get to a moment of growth that you go, connections with people, or feeling comfortable with the life around you that you have, where you just go, I'm happy. And the happiness starts to say, oh, I'm happiest when I can be myself. Oh, I can just have fun. Oh, even with work, you get to a place where one of the things I tell my teams is just like, if we're not having fun here, like, what's happening, people? Like, we should be able to enjoy what we're doing, have fun with what we're doing, but you can still work and push and do all of those things, but enjoy it and love it. I love what I do. And even in the good and the bad and all of that kind of stuff, or the hard times, I love what I do and the people I work with. When I was young, I was just so much harder on myself. I was just so hard on having to say you had to look a certain way, present a certain way, sound smart, what is that? What is sounding smart, right? As I got older, though, and as I've worked with more people, and as I've learned from good people that, I've watched how they've done stuff around, and the people I've connected most with are the people who are genuine, who are authentic, who just say, all right, we're not going to do it that way. Well, okay, what's our next step? And not getting mad that something goes wrong, but really, how do we find solutions? How do we figure it out? And it builds your confidence when you have those wins. And over time, those wins have helped me to tell myself better stories. And I think that's what it is. Also, I have really good friends and people around me that have made me also feel like, I am worthy of this great friendship, and they are. And, when I tell them, you need some time off, or you should take care of yourself, well, I should be telling myself that too, right? So I think over time that's what it is. It's a mix of the relationships and the people and the wins and the confidence that you build, and then learning how to step out of yourself, how to get your ego out of the way. And that's what I mean by saying, I don't have anyone I have to be because this is it. And when you get to a place in life like that, it's freeing, and then it allows you to, it flows with everything you do. So I think for me, that as I go on that and stay with that has helped me over time to be like, okay, all right.
Do you feel like people should aspire to completely get rid of their ego?
Yes. Yes. The whole ego is not your amigo, kind of thing.
I've never heard that.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Really, yeah. It's just, there are some good things about the ego when you put it in perspective that can push you or guide you or those kind of things. But when you're in your place of losing your authenticity because you're trying to be this face of whatever you think that is, then it's no longer true. Or, it's also the thing that provides anxiety and fear or anger because you're in a place of fighting for that whatever that is, the ego, to support it. And so it allows you to live much freer when you can drop that. And, the ego too, it's like the stubbornness, or the I have to, people have to think I'm right. I want to be right. Well, I want to do what's right. I don't need to be right, And so at work, a lot of times too, that's the other things I've learned. It's like, I don't care if we do it your way or my way, if it gets done, right? And if it has the end result, that's what we're looking for. So, for me, that has helped me a lot. I got to a place at one point where I did a lot of yoga and kind of, went down that road. reading the book, The Power of Now was great. The first time I tried to read it didn't resonate with me. And I went back later and read it and I was like, this is amazing. But those kind of things where you really then kind of, if you're ready for them and open to them, and to close off on the piece with relationships and, finding somebody for you, you have to be open and ready for that, to receive that in your life. And when I met my husband, that's what happened. I was just open for that in my life. Yeah.
I'm just curious because I want to know, what is being a private investigator like?
Oh my God, it's amazing. No, everybody has, he has better stories than me, and it makes me mad because I used to have really cool stories because we're in multifamily.
Is there a crazy story you can tell?
No. He has these, it's just a lot. So just to pull it back. So he does a lot of work with law firms for different attorneys. But for this one particular law firm in Austin that he works mostly with, they use him on different cases that he has to go and find out what happened, that, somebody's saying this happened, but then he goes and digs up cameras that people didn't know were around, or, somebody had a Ring camera on something, or, you know what I mean? And he pulls together the information, but he also has to know the law, and he does all of, the kind of following that. But then he interviews a lot of these people, just as he did as a detective. And, he gets people ready sometimes before they go to the police station, before they have, those interviews with them. He will go through stories and oftentimes get more out of the person for the attorney that's trying to help them. But they don't want to say certain things have happened the way they have. And so he does a lot in how he communicates with people that is good. And but yes, he has just interesting cases and neat stuff. And some of it's just like he does some security stuff also sometimes. He's just busy. And then he'll be like, oh my God, I have so much work, but he takes on another job or he does something else and he loves it. So, yeah.
So how did you get into multifamily?
I was doing a lot of, I was a personal trainer. And so I did a lot around physical fitness and wellness and that kind of stuff. And then I got my real estate license and I thought, I'm going to sell homes. And that was I was engaged and I thought, I'm going to sell homes. I'm going to get married. This is what this is going to look like. And then I thought, I don't want this. I don't want to do this. And at that time I realized, I need something more stable than just selling homes, right? Where you're working for yourself and trying to do that. And so I got into the multifamily side because in management operations, good, bad markets, there's a lot of stability from someone who works on it from that side. So I started on a lease up, did a lot of leasing, then I moved up and just kept growing into the next position, and moved my way on up.
You wanted to, what did you think about?
I did once I got in it. When I first got on it, I was like, I'm going to just, do this to help me and kind of figure out what else, my other steps and what I wanted to do. I worked with a couple of really great ladies that had said, hey, we need somebody after I was leasing and then I was on a side as an assistant. They wanted somebody at their corporate office to help with customer service issues that were happening in the Austin, San Antonio markets. And so this was before all the computerized stuff of how you could manage stuff. And so, I set up a thing where we would take different calls and then you could break down which properties were having issues and then kind of on a board what the issues were and then how, were they maintenance stuff? Can we fix this? Can we go to, and so I hit it up from that way. And then I wanted to go back out on site, so they let me go back out on site. And then I moved up, and that was the same company I moved to Florida with. And then, I just kind of kept growing from there. But I always tell people this about multifamily is once you're in it, there is no getting out of it if you love what you do. Like it gets you, and that's what it's done for me. It's crazy, and then it's fun. You get, your people, you get to make a difference with training. You get to see new buildings come up from nothing to then, the whole building, and you're like, oh, this is amazing. Help people with their homes. Then you have the other financial side, the ownership side, and that's a whole other thing that makes your brain work in a different way. And so for me, having all of those different outlets and avenues was what I loved, because I think one thing, if I had to do just the one thing, I would be like, oh, I got to find more. But this had allowed me so much more.
Are there any people in the industry that have been big role models to you?
Definitely, for sure. The first big company that I say I grew up with, I had a lady, Lori Allen, who I worked with there, and she was, looking back, I think the reason she did help me so much was she was very much, she was more of a trainer mindset, and but she was just herself. Like she wasn't trying to be this strong, I'm a VP, kind of thing, and, trying to push herself in a certain world. She was just like, hey, how do we do this, working very collaborative. It was really the first time I saw somebody really trying to work from a way of not this boss, supervisor, that kind of thing, like a hierarchy of this and that. It was more of a, how do we do this? How do we collectively work through problems? And she was funny. And I really appreciated her. And then later in life, Gina Roberts, who I worked with, she was also if I look back, very similar. She was a little harder on people. She knew her stuff. She knew her numbers. She knew that nobody ever had a question like her. Oh yeah, she's smart. But she was also just, I'm your friend. I'm your this. I'm here to help you. I'm not, there was no where you had to be worried. Oh gosh, what is she going to ask me? What's happening? Oh, our numbers are bad. She's going to be upset. Just she was hard on you, but she also was helpful. Like, okay, what do we need to do? How do we figure it out? And so for me, those people, when you see them not having to be this woman that's trying to be this powerful, something where you lose some of the femininity of who you are, like they weren't afraid of that. It was, both of them were that and this. And so to see it being able to be one, it's powerful, feminine being was what resonated with me so much. And so from both of them, and they were both at different times in my career.
Do you feel like there's a lot of pressure to give up your femininity?
I do. I think, it's interesting in interviews when I have with people and I'm like, oh, tell me if you were having a bad day, how would I know? And it's hard for people to answer that because they want to say, oh, I leave it at the door. I don't bring it to work with me. People shouldn't see if I'm having a bad day. And I'm like, and I listen, it is what it is. But there's an emotional intelligence, right? That you should be able to bring a bad day with you because it's you. How you work through it and work with it is a different thing. But to tell somebody, I'm going to be a little quiet today, I'm having a bad day, there's nothing wrong or says it's anything less. But for some reason, I think there are these people that still have this view of being a boss, that you have to be this certain way and you should, take out some of that softness because people won't see you as a boss because you're There's this soft side of you, but you can't be a full leader if you're not your full self. And yeah, so you have to bring that with you, and to try to push down anything of who you really are, it'll come through with the people you work with.
How would you explain your leadership philosophy?
Mostly that. It's you're going to get what you get from me. I'm very transparent. I will help you always if you trust in our relationship, because it is a two-way street. I can't do for you if you put yourself out on a limb all by yourself, and then I find there's a problem and we never knew there was a problem, right? So the very bottom line from a leadership issue level foundation with me is trusting each other, and growing on that. Because if you do that, then those problems become less, right? Then now it's just finding solutions and working together and trusting that everything's okay. And you're never then afraid to speak up. Because what I don't want is somebody afraid to tell me what I need to know. Don't tell me what I want. You think I want to hear. Tell me what I need to hear. And without the trust, you won't get that. And so from a leadership level, the trust is first and foremost for me, for people. And I have to feel like, look, we're in this together, but I also need you to put in from your side as well. Yeah, I can't do it on my own, because then there's no relationship, right? So yeah. On
the multifamily story side,
yeah,
you have to tell me a story that you've seen something crazy. I actually asked Michelle a crazy resident story, and she told me. But
oh gosh,
what have you seen over the years?
There's been a lot. Because you get the employee side and you get the resident side, and I don't want to say anything too heavy. So we have a gentleman. This is funny. He was at a property, and he got upset because they were telling him he needed to pay his rent. And he said, you shouldn't have to bother me for rent. Don't bother me. And so he got mad and he sued them over harassment because he wasn't paying his rent. And then later decided to say he was a sovereign citizen, and so he should be able to do whatever he wanted to do. But the fact that he was going through the courts negated the fact that he said he was a sovereign citizen. So you're just like, oh my God. But that kind of thinking is crazy. And it's the kind of stuff we deal with. Yeah. So it's funny. I'm like, well, okay, you guys are doing your job. Yeah. You're asking for your money. But he was mad that they were asking him to pay his rent. So yeah.
Funny.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
So you've been in the industry for a while. What are you looking forward to with all the technology that's coming with AI and all this stuff? Like, what are you looking forward to, and where do you think, how do you think the industry is going to change in the next 5 years or so?
I think it's definitely going to change in the fact that we are going to rely more on AI. AI is only seeing its beginnings, right, in what we do. I think there's going to be some more growth in using AI to help with the leasing, the reaching out to prospects, and the follow-ups from that sense, the reaching out to residents to say happy birthday, or, these kind of things. You can use all of that for the delinquency on the sides of people who need to pay rent and that kind of stuff. There's now, the AI you use that reaches out to them to say, here's your balance, here's whatever, when are you going to pay? So you're no longer using people to do all of these things. The other side to that is, even though I think people think the AI is going to help with all of these things, we're going to find where it does work, and we're going to find where it doesn't. And I think what will happen is the people connection and what we do is not going to go away. And we're still going to have connections with the people we help, we serve. And, companies, the businesses that will be most successful with AI will be utilizing AI to work with them and still create an environment where they have those personal connections with people and create people experiences that, provide value in where they live. And I don't think you can do that yet with any AI that, I've seen. So that's what looking forward, I know there will be some places where it'll provide efficiencies. That'll be really helpful. And I think we're finding the tracks on that. I do, again, think we'll find where it's not going to help you. And where it's not is we still are people business. And I will remain that in multifamily no matter what. And, just with this podcast you have, understanding the individuals who work and where they're from and how, we're connected and how we all got here and our crazy lives. There isn't any AI that's going to take that away from us, right?
Yeah, I was talking to Michelle while she was giving me a tour. And she said that there's been so many times that a resident has been influenced just by the tour because of the emotional connection that was built.
Yes.
The human connection that was
good.
built.
Yes.
And when I was doing a tour with her, I even noticed it myself. I was like, oh, wow, you guys have a puppy spa or a dog spa. And the way it was communicated made me more excited about it. And I imagine inversely, if the experience was not great, the feeling I would have about the building when I'm considering 10 other buildings is going to be different, right? That's just the reality.
Yes. Yes.
That's really interesting. Do you feel like there's any area, specific problem that you think is overlooked by a lot of the technology companies that AI should be working on? Is because the common ones are what you said, lead nurture, delinquency. Where do you feel like AI would be beneficial? That there's not really a clear solution right now.
For me, I think where I could see it working more or finding some solutions for is anything on the maintenance and ordering with identifying, kind of almost like what I said earlier, where you're able to identify, okay, these are the problems we're running into from the maintenance side. These easily you can put together top 5 issues from a property, from what they should be ordering because of supplies, whatever, because this is what they need. Here's what their trend shows. Here's what, and maybe more forward thinking of that, how that could work for you. So we're not spending the time and the energy of the what do we need to order? How do we need to get it to us? If we could have that seamless, it could be very helpful because there's a lot of time and energy that goes into the parts and supplies, figuring out what's needed, our maintenance shops, the ordering of it, the invoicing of it, all of that kind of stuff that takes time and energy, and the vendors that we have to use that need to be, certified a certain way or credentialed a certain way. And so if I could have an AI something that would help with, making this area more seamless, I think that would be a really great way to utilize it and not be involved necessarily in all the people stuff that we were just talking about, right? It gives you more time to go then create the experience with the people you're working with. That's where I would love to see more solutions with AI. I don't know how, but yes, yeah. And there's stuff out there now, but it's just not,
It's not,
upfront, seamless kind of ways of looking at it.
Robbie, thank you so much.
Yes,
this was super fun.
Thank you. I'm
really
glad. Well, I felt like I talked way more than I needed to.
No,
and I should have heard
amazing.
more about you because I find it interesting that what you're doing and getting to go around doing all of this. How much longer do you have on your tour?
We have, I think, 10 weeks.
Oh, 10 more weeks? Oh my God. You've already been going 6 weeks?
It's been 6 weeks. Yeah, 6 weeks. So we're doing it 4 months. So February 7th to June 7th.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, for a second I thought I was only going to do this for a month, but then I announced that I'm doing this for 4 months, and it's been really fun though. It's been really amazing to I think there's just something different about sitting and meeting, even doing this podcast for like a microsecond, I was like, maybe I'll just do this on Zoom. But then I was like, how would I build a relationship with somebody? How would I be able to ask them the questions that I'm asking?
Yeah, because you're asking real personal questions. And it's hard to have that relationship if you don't have this.
Yeah, and it's just like less fun. I wouldn't really enjoy it. But it's been really amazing. I mean, we've been in, like I told you, mainly Texas, but we're going to Atlanta, Austin after this, Atlanta, bunch of places.
Are you going home between this or?
So that was the other thing is I thought I'd be going home more often. I have a bunch of plants in my apartment. I told my parents, I was like, hey, I want a dog. And they're like, you're not getting a dog because you travel too much.
Yeah.
And they're like, first find a girlfriend. So like maybe she can help out with the dog.
Yeah, then she can take care of the dog. Oh, God.
And then I was like, okay, well before a girlfriend.
See, that's going to be on your top level of finding a girlfriend. Is she good with dogs?
Exactly. That's one of the qualities. So I was like, okay, like let me just first like be able to take care of plants. If I can like take care of plants, I can take care of a dog, and then I can get a girlfriend, and then I can like blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But so I have a bunch of plants in my house. So I was really concerned about that because if I'm gone 4 months, who's going to water? I didn't want to ask the neighbor to commit 4 months. So I actually subletted my place.
Oh, cool.
So I go back occasionally.
Does your apartment know you sublet it? Does it matter?
I don't know. I don't think they're watching this.
Okay, we won't say anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's to a friend who's there.
kidding.
Yeah, maybe
Totally
maybe they're going to get me in trouble. But yeah, because I'm renting my place. When I go back to LA, I'm like staying in a hotel. So I haven't been back, and I'm not going back that frequently. I've been back like once, and then I'm going to go back for Q2 kickoff Sunday.
Okay. Cool.
And then, maybe once or twice between that, but not really.
What kind of dog are you thinking about getting?
My sister has a Bernedoodle.
Oh, good. Okay.
Which is Bernie's mountain dog.
Yeah. I have a mini golden doodle.
Okay. So I would probably do like a golden doodle or something like that. Or an Aussie doodle. I think Australian Shepherds. Australian Shepherds have the cool eyes and a doodle.
Yeah.
So I definitely do a doodle because of the hair thing.
Yes.
And I feel like I'd want it like an Aussie doodle or something.
Well, the reason too, I did the mini golden doodle. So he's about 40 pounds. So he's not like mini, but it's just not the full size poodle.
Yeah, my sister's the same. I think the mini 40-pound Bernedoodle.
Yes, and I like that size or whatever. But yes, and it's great. And I love him, and he's the smartest dog, and he's so cute.
What's his name?
Cowboy.
Yeah.
But you'll need to get a dog. And if you're better at plants than I am, good for you, because I used to overwater all my plants, and then I would just, they would hide from me when they saw me around. They'd be like, oh, there's a lady with the water. But
She's drowning me.
I got better at that once I realized, because you don't realize how like the water's sitting in there.
Yeah.
So I do once a week, I go go around my plants in the house, and I'm able to leave a certain amount alive.
That's awesome. Yeah, I downloaded this app that lets you scan all your plants, and based on the type of plant, it'll tell you the frequency in which to water it.
Oh,
so
smart.
I have this like checklist thing that and you can like take a picture. It'll tell you like how the plant is doing,
the health of it,
and all this stuff.
Well, I did buy. There's these things you can buy that is a water, like a moisture thing. So it's it just sticks in the.
So it auto waters or whatever.
No. It goes in the soil, and it's a moisture. It tells you how much moisture is in it. So you can stick it down, into the pot, and so you can see how much it's in there, and then so it's helped me.
Oh, that's a good idea. I should buy those.
It's on Amazon. You can get it. Yeah. I thought it was going to be this big, and it's like this long. So.
Oh, that's a really good idea. Yeah, because and then you just
you put it in there, and you can see it. It's on a scale of like really, a lot of moisture, and then dry, and then so obviously you want it.
Okay, I'm gonna buy those.
And I think that's why I have plants that are still living. So
that's amazing.
There you go. That's my last tip for you. That's all I got. Yeah.
Plants, on plants.
But thank you. I do appreciate what you're doing. I love that you guys are out running around and representing and meeting all the people out there and stuff. So good luck to you.
I'll have to thank Carrie again for introducing us.
Yes. I'll thank her too, because I love Carrie. So
awesome. Well, thanks, Robbie.
Yes. Appreciate it. Didn't it? So you can stick it down, into the pot. And so, you can see how much it's in there. And then, so it's helped me.
that's a good idea. I should buy those.
It's on Amazon. You can get it. Yeah. I thought it was going to be this big and it's like this long. So.
Oh, that's a really good idea. Yeah. And then you just, okay.
You put it in there and you can see it. It's on a scale of like really, a lot of moisture.
Nice.
And then dry. And then, so, obviously you want it.
Okay. I'm going to buy those.
And I think that's why I have plants that are still living. So
that's amazing.
There you go. That's my last tip for you. That's all I got. Yeah.
Plants, on plants.
But thank you. I do appreciate what you're doing. I love that you guys are out running around and representing and meeting all the people out there and stuff. So good luck to you.
I'll have to thank Carrie again for introducing us.
Yes. I'll thank her too because I love Carrie. So
awesome. Well, thanks, Robbie.
Yes. Appreciate it.